Renee Richards was a professional tennis player in the 1970s, and she was one of the first high-profile transgender athletes. Before she transitioned at age 41, she went by Renee Richards. Richards actually went to my high school, Horace Mann, in the Bronx, and there she, who was then a he, swam, pitched, played football, and primarily tennis. Richards then went to Yale and was the captain of the tennis team and left Yale to go to med school at the University of Rochester. But Richards continued competing in professional tennis, additionally joined the Navy and played in tennis tournaments there. And Richards was in the top 20 of worldwide players. Renee Richards was very successful. They became a surgeon in Manhattan, married a model, got a pilot's license, but Richards had always struggled with his identity, and at the age of 41, Renee underwent gender reassignment surgery. Then they were reborn, naming themselves Renee, French for rebirth. After her transition, in the same year that Caitlyn Jenner won the Olympic decathlon, that's 1976, that year Renee played a tournament under a pseudonym, but a reporter outed her, and there was great turmoil over whether she had won the tournament fairly. Then Renee tried to join the U.S. Open, the biggest tournament that the U.S. hosts, and the U.S. Open said that all of their players had to get a chromosome test that year, and it was all because of Renee. And Renee refused to take the test. She said it was not a good test of femininity. Just because one chromosome says XY, that doesn't mean the rest of her DNA signaled a man. At the same time, a controversial article came out about how transgender people who didn't have surgery shouldn't be allowed to play, even if they were undergoing hormone therapy. At this point, there was great uprising on social media with support for Renee. Meanwhile, other people were accusing her of cheating because of her size and her skill, which were obviously shown as she was in the top 20 back when she was a man. For reference, in tennis, a man's serve would be 140 miles per hour, while a woman could only hit 100 miles per hour, so there was a big difference. While Renee had undergone gender reassignment surgery, the Tennis Association was scared what would happen if someone wanted to play who was transgender and hadn't done that. So they were adamant that the chromosome test had to be done. And Renee spoke out, saying her muscle mass wasn't that different, and saying she was 42 years old. So she really had no age advantage, and she was claiming her right to play tennis as a woman. Renee did sue the U.S. Tennis Association and got into the U.S. Open. However, many people dropped out, claiming that it was unfair. But Renee lost in the first round of singles, but also played in the doubles bracket, where she got to the finals with her partner. Now, if we tie Renee back to class, it ties to fighting against the patriarchy. And we were talking about these binaries. Pro tennis was worried that if she's not a woman, she must be playing like a man, not seeing the nuances. The patriarchy is also the fear of the unknown. They don't want anyone else to be in power, and they don't want Renee to be a strong figure that leads to more transgender people in tennis, because they don't know what they would do if someone really strong came into the playing field. It's also a fight against the patriarchy because it's a fight for the rights of the minority, for the women who are not like everybody else, and also the women who are being told the rules by white men in power. So it can be hard to convey the nuances of gender. For the question for the class, let's go back and think of how social media helped Renee by arguing that the U.S. Open chromosome test was unjust. What other good and bad messages has social media spread? Do you think that social media does more harm or good when it comes to discussing transgender issues?